The first time I saw Davis, he was washing his truck. He had just moved in across the street. Shirtless, built, strong. I couldn't stop staring. Water dripped down his abs, tracing every ridge. I wanted to follow the same path, with my tongue. The thought alone sent a rush through me. Before I knew it, my body reacted. My gray shorts did nothing to hide it. I think he saw. He didn't say a word. He just smiled. Not a laugh, not a smirk. A real smile, like he knew. Oh my God. Davis smiled at me. His teeth were perfect. White. His brown eyes locked on me for a second too long. My heart pounded. I had always been into older guys, but this was dangerous. I wasn't out. My parents had no idea. That day, he didn't say anything. But the next day, he called me over. You busy? His voice was deep, strong. No, I answered, too fast. Help me paint. I hated painting, but spending time with him? That was different. I ran inside and changed. Old shorts, a loose shirt, clothes I didn't mind ruining. We started painting. I bent down to reload the roller. Rip, my shorts tore completely. No underwear. I froze. My heart stopped. Then I heard his voice. Calm, smooth, nice ass. Oh my God. I swallowed hard. Thanks. Then I felt it. His hand. A slow touch. Was he fixing my shorts? Or? I didn't move. I didn't want him to stop. That night, I couldn't sleep. I replayed it over and over. We didn't do anything that day. But in the days that followed, he treated me like I was his.
I had only been in the neighborhood for a few days when I saw him watching me. The kid from across the street. Adam. Young. But the way he looked at me, that wasn't just curiosity. I had seen that look before. I didn't say anything. I just smiled. And the way he reacted, like I had just shaken his whole world, told me everything. The next day, I called him over. I didn't need help painting. I just wanted to see if he'd say yes. He did. He showed up in shorts that were way too tight, a shirt that barely fit. We worked in silence. Then his shorts ripped. No underwear. All of him exposed. He went completely still, probably panicking. I took my time, looked, enjoyed. Then I said it. Nice ass. His voice was almost breathless. Thanks. I reached down, gripping him. Just for a second. I told myself I was fixing his shorts. Maybe. But the way he didn't pull away, the way he leaned into it, just slightly, that told me everything I needed to know. And in the days that followed, I showed him exactly what it meant to be mine.
After that day, I couldn't stop thinking about Davis. The way he touched me, firm, confident, like he already knew I wanted more. We didn't talk about it, not at first, but the tension between us grew thicker every day. Then one evening, he texted me. It was Davis. You busy? My stomach flipped. I responded with no, what's up? Then he responded with come over. Just 2 words. No explanation. I hesitated, but only for a second. I grabbed my keys and walked across the street. When he opened the door, he was shirtless again, fresh out of the shower. Beads of water still clung to his skin. His towel hung low on his hips. My throat went dry. He smirked. Come in. I stepped inside. The door clicked shut behind me. Then, before I could say anything, he grabbed me. Not rough, not forceful, just certain. He pulled me in close, his body warm, solid, commanding. My pulse pounded. I could barely breathe. Then he kissed me. Slow at first. Testing. Then deeper. I melted into it. Into him. And that night, Davis didn't just treat me like his. He made sure I knew I was.
I knew he'd come. The way Adam looked at me. Hungry. Waiting. He wasn't some kid. He was a man. One who knew what he wanted. And tonight, I was done waiting. When he stepped inside, I didn't waste time. I took him. He didn't resist. He leaned into me, his body pressing against mine, his breath hitching as my hands explored him. Then I kissed him. And from the way he melted into me, I knew. He was mine now.
After that night, everything changed. I wasn't just crushing on Davis anymore. I was in deep, We didn't talk about what we were, didn't put a label on it, but I kept finding excuses to come over, helping him move furniture, washing his truck, grabbing a beer on his back porch. And every time it ended the same way. His hands on me, his lips, his body. I wasn't complaining, but I knew this couldn't last forever because it wasn't just about us. People were starting to notice. My friends asked why I'd been disappearing. My mom made a passing comment. "That new neighbor sure has you busy, huh?" I laughed it off, but deep down I was scared. Scared of what people would say. Scared of losing him. Because Davis, he wasn't the type to settle down. He'd been in the army. He had experience, control, a life before me. What if I was just a fling? What if this meant more to me than it did to him?
I should have known better. At first, it was simple, casual, physical. But Adam wasn't like the others. He wasn't just young. He was new, untouched by the world in ways I wasn't. And that did something to me. I wanted to ruin him, break him in, make sure no one else could ever have him the way I did. But I also wanted to protect him, because I saw the way people looked at us. Neighbors whispering, his parents watching, his friends asking questions. I wasn't ashamed of what we had, but I knew this kind of thing didn't go unnoticed, and I wasn't about to become a problem in his life. So I did what I'd learned to do in the army. I built a wall, pulled back, kept things casual, kept things light, until one night, Adam called me out.
It happened after a party. I showed up at Davis's door, tipsy, heart pounding. He answered, looking too good for his own damn good. "You been drinking?" he asked. I nodded. "Not a lot." He hesitated, thinking, calculating. Then he sighed. "Go home, Adam." The words hit like a slap. Go home? I stared at him. "You don't want me anymore?" His jaw clenched. "It's not that." "Then what?" My voice cracked. "You're fine when we're alone, but the second we step outside, I don't exist." He ran a hand through his hair, frustrated. "You don't get it." "Then explain it to me." Silence. Then he grabbed me. Not rough, but desperate. He pressed his forehead against mine, his breath heavy. "You think I don't want you? I can't stop thinking about you." My chest ached. "Then stop pushing me away." Another pause. Then he whispered, "If I don't push you away, I'm going to end up keeping you." My breath caught. "And what's wrong with that?" He looked at me, really looked. Then he kissed me. And this time, it wasn't just about lust. It was about something deeper. Something neither of us was ready to admit. I should have been happy. Davis wanted me. He told me. And yet, something about it made my chest feel tight. Maybe it was the way he said it. Like he was afraid. Like keeping me was some dangerous choice he wasn't sure he could make. I started wondering, was I in love with him? Or was I just obsessed with the idea of him? Because Davis wasn't just any guy. He was everything I fantasized about. Older, strong, experienced. The kind of man I had dreamed about being with but never thought I actually could. And now that I had him, was that enough? Or was I just chasing the high of sneaking around, of being wanted by someone like him? I couldn't tell. And that scared me. Because if Davis was serious about us, I needed to be sure what I wanted. And right now, I wasn't.
I wasn't built for this. I'd spent my life in control. The army taught me discipline, strength, the importance of knowing when to fight and when to walk away. But Adam made me forget all of that. Made me reckless. Made me want things I wasn't sure I was allowed to want. A relationship. Stability. Something real. The problem was, Adam was still figuring himself out. I saw it in the way he looked at me. With hunger, with excitement, but also with uncertainty. He liked me. He wanted me. But did he actually love me? I didn't want to ask. Didn't want to pressure him. Because if I said the wrong thing, I could lose him. So instead I waited. Let him set the pace. Let him decide what this was, even if it killed me inside.
I needed space to think. So, for the first time in weeks, I didn't go to Davis's house. Didn't text him. Didn't let myself get swept away in the heat of his touch. Instead, I sat in my room, staring at the ceiling, asking myself the one question I've been avoiding. What do I actually want? Was I in this because I saw a future with Davis? Or was I just addicted to the way he made me feel? The truth? I wasn't sure. And the worst part? I had a feeling Davis already knew. I thought I had time. Time to figure out what I wanted. Time to make sense of the mess in my head. This pull between love, lust, and fear. But then he showed up. Some guy my age. Tall, lean, blonde. Probably some college kid home for the summer. And he was standing in Davis's driveway, laughing like he belonged there. At first, I told myself it was nothing. But then I saw it. Davis's hand, on his ass. Casual. Too casual. Like it wasn't the first time. My stomach twisted. What the fuck was I looking at? I told myself to walk away. To go back inside. To stop staring like some jealous, clingy idiot. But I couldn't. Because the next thing I saw, Davis leading him inside. And I lost it.
I knew Adam was watching. I felt his eyes on me the second I touched Connor's waist. Was it a mistake? Maybe. But I was tired of waiting. Tired of holding back, because I was afraid Adam would run. I wasn't stupid. I knew he had feelings for me. But feelings weren't enough. Not if he wasn't willing to fight for this. I needed him to choose me. And if seeing me with someone else made him realize what he wanted, then so be it.
I didn't even think. Before I knew it, I was walking across the street. I didn't knock. I just opened the door and stepped inside. Davis was standing in the kitchen, beer in hand, while Connor leaned against the counter, smirking like he owned the place, like he belonged here. My heart was pounding. I didn't even know what I was going to say. But then Davis turned to me, calm, unreadable, like he'd been waiting for me. "Something wrong, kid?" he asked, voice low. And that's when I lost it. Yeah, actually, I shot back. "What the fuck is this?" Connor let out a soft laugh, like this was some joke. But Davis? He just watched me, waiting, for me to finally admit what I wanted. I wasn't sure what I was doing, but I couldn't hold back anymore. I stepped further into the room, my heart pounding so hard I could barely hear anything. My words came out before I even had a chance to think. "I don't care who the hell that is," I said, gesturing to Connor, who was standing there looking way too comfortable in Davis's kitchen. "I want you. I've wanted you from the moment I saw you. But I can't." I cut myself off, suddenly unsure how to keep going. I could feel my chest tightening, my throat closing up. I wanted to say everything. That I was scared. That I was terrified of what my parents would think. That the thought of them rejecting me, rejecting us, was something I couldn't even process. But instead, I just blurted out the truth. "I want you, Davis." I said again, this time softer, more vulnerable. "But I can't be with you if I can't tell them. If I can't tell anyone. I'm too scared to be rejected. You don't know what it's like to be afraid of your own family turning their back on you."
Adam was standing there, wide-eyed and raw, exposing everything, his fear, his feelings, without holding anything back. I knew how hard that was for him, and my heart ached for him. But my own fears were right there too. I wasn't the kind of man who didn't want commitment. I didn't just want to be his secret. I wanted to be everything. Before I could say anything, though, Connor stepped forward. He placed a hand on my shoulder, fingers trailing down to my chest, as if to make a point. "Come on, man," he said with a half-smirk. "You two are just playing games. Let him prove it. Let him show you he's serious." I felt a sharp edge of irritation at Connor's casual tone, but I didn't pull away. Adam had to see that this wasn't just some one-sided fantasy. That if he wanted me, he needed to make a move. No more hiding. Connor's hand wandered down my body, and I could feel him groping me. The tension in the room thickened.
What the hell was happening? I had just confessed everything to Davis. Laid it all out. And now Connor was groping him like he didn't even care that I was standing there. My stomach churned. The jealousy burned, but it wasn't just about Connor. It was about me. About my fear. Why couldn't I just be bold, like this? Why couldn't I take the leap and be proud of who I was? I could feel the heat rushing to my face as I clenched my fists, trying to keep myself in check. And then Davis, in a voice thick with control, finally spoke. "Connor, enough," he said, shoving him back just enough to create space between us. He turned his gaze to me. "Adam, listen to me. I'm not asking you to do this for anyone but yourself. I want to be with you, but I need you to be honest. With yourself. With your parents. If you really want this, you have to make the choice. Stop hiding. Davis's words hit me hard, deeper than anything he'd said before. He wasn't just talking about us, about me and him. He was talking about something bigger, about my life, my truth. I knew what I had to do. I'll do it, I said, my voice trembling, but it was real. I'm going to tell them. I'm going to tell my parents. I'll do it today, I swear. Davis's eyes softened. He didn't smile, but there was something in the way he looked at me. Something that made me feel like I wasn't alone in this as I thought. I took a step toward him, my heart pounding in my chest. But before I could say anything more, Connor made his move. I froze.
I was watching Adam, proud of him for finally making the decision. He had been so afraid of rejection, and for a moment, it seemed like he might break through that fear. But just then, Connor stepped forward with that devil-may-care grin on his face. I knew what he was about to do, and to be honest, I was done holding back. Adam needed a wake-up call. Connor dropped to his knees, with too much confidence, too much eagerness, and before anyone could say a word, he was pulling down the zipper of my jeans. I didn't stop him.
What the hell was happening? Connor, on his knees in front of Davis. And then I saw it. He was pulling down Davis's zipper, and my blood ran cold. Everything in me screamed to look away, but I couldn't. I was frozen in place. Frozen with panic. Connor was just inches away from pulling out Davis's manhood, and my chest felt like it was about to cave in. My mouth went dry. I couldn't breathe. And Davis? He was just standing there, letting it happen. I couldn't process it. The reality of it hit me hard. Connor wasn't just joking. He was dead serious. And it was happening right in front of me. I couldn't believe it. This wasn't how it was supposed to go.
I could see Adam panicking, his eyes wide, his face pale, his chest rising and falling too quickly. He was about to break. I could see it. Stop. Please stop. I grabbed Connor by the arm and jerked him back, pushing him away from me. I turned to Adam, my voice sharp but gentle. Adam, listen to me. I could feel the weight of his fear in the air. It was suffocating him. I took a step forward, closing the distance between us. I'm not involved with him, Adam. Not like that. I turned back to Connor, who was now standing with his hands in his pockets, completely indifferent to the tension in the room. Connor's just an idiot friend. This isn't what you think. I turned my gaze back to Adam. I needed you to see something. I needed you to see how serious you are about this. If you want me, if you want us, you need to go and tell them, right now.
I couldn't process everything. Everything was happening too fast. The panic in my chest slowly started to ease as I realized something I had missed before. Connor wasn't Davis's lover. He was just a friend, trying to mess with me, trying to push me to see that I had to make a decision. But even so, it hurt. It hurt that I felt betrayed by my own fear. Fear of the unknown, of what I might lose. I wanted to run. But Davis was looking at me, waiting for me to do what I had said I would do. I felt like I was standing on the edge of a cliff, about to jump without knowing what was below. It was over. The storm of emotions, confusion, and fear that had built up in me for months finally broke. I took Davis's words to heart. I told myself I couldn't keep living in fear. I couldn't hide anymore. So I did it. I walked into the kitchen, sat my mom down, and told her everything. She didn't say a word for a long moment, just stared at me with wide eyes. Then she stood up, pulled me into a hug, and whispered, "I love you no matter what." It wasn't easy to tell my dad. He didn't say anything for hours when I told him. He didn't scream or get angry, but the silence spoke louder than words. He was cold, distant, but after a few months, he started coming around. We didn't talk about it much, but there was this subtle shift. He would ask about Davis now and then, and I knew he was processing it, even if it was at his own pace. I felt relieved, free, and yet I still couldn't get the image of Connor's words out of my head.
I had never been this happy in a long time. Adam was finally opening up, letting go of the fear that had kept him locked inside. I had been so scared, too, that maybe he wouldn't be able to handle the pressure. But now here we were. It felt like we had crossed an invisible line that had been keeping us apart. And then came Connor. Out of nowhere, he showed up again. At first, I thought he was just trying to mess with Adam, but it was more than that. He wanted me back. He made that clear the first time he came over after Adam and I started dating. And when he blurted out that he and I had been together in the past, I didn't know what to feel. "We've slept together, Adam," Connor said with a grin, like it was some big secret. "I've had him before, but that's in the past. He's mine now." Adam looked like someone had punched him in the stomach, and I couldn't blame him. I had to clear the air. "That's in the past," I told Adam, pulling him close. "We've moved on. It's not what you think."
Connor's words hit me like a ton of bricks. My brain short-circuited. I didn't know how to feel. But Davis's hand on my shoulder grounded me. I could see the sincerity in his eyes, and I realized that he was right. It was in the past. Still, I wasn't sure if Connor had truly moved on. I didn't want to admit it, but there was something off about the way he kept showing up, and that's when things really got complicated.
It was getting harder and harder for me to stay away from Davis. He was the one who got away, and even though I tried to act like I was fine, I wasn't. The fact that Adam had come into the picture didn't help. He was young, sure, but he was good-looking, and I could tell Davis was crazy about him. But that didn't mean I was giving up. "Have you ever thought about being a throuple?" I asked one evening, after a few drinks, just as the tension between me and Adam reached its peak. I saw both of their faces change at the same time, like I had said something completely out of left field. Adam's expression hardened, a clear "no way in hell" written all over his face. But Davis? He didn't pull away. He actually considered it for a moment. Why not? Two good-looking guys wanting to be with me at the same time? Who wouldn't be into that?
Adam was livid when I said it. I could feel the anger rising in him, like a tide that I couldn't stop. But as for me, I couldn't deny that the thought had crossed my mind more than once. Who wouldn't want two young, attractive men wanting to share a relationship with them? It was flattering. It was tempting. But I had to tread carefully. I wasn't sure if Adam was ready for something like that. I glanced at him, watching his face contort with emotion, and I knew that he didn't want any part of it. "I didn't mean to upset you, Adam," I said, trying to calm the situation. "I just thought I'd ask. But I won't push."
My chest tightened. I wanted to scream, to tell Davis no, that I wasn't okay with it. But instead, I took a deep breath, fighting the frustration that was bubbling inside of me. "We're not doing that," I said, my voice shaking. "I'm not okay with it. I don't want to share you with anyone else." Davis didn't argue. He just nodded, understanding the hurt in my voice. But Connor? He didn't let up.
I couldn't let it go. I pushed and pushed because I knew, deep down, that I still wanted Davis, and I wasn't going to let some kid come in and take him from me without a fight. But I could see that Adam was determined. The more I poked and prodded, the more I saw that I wasn't going to get Davis back. So I backed off for now. But I knew that wouldn't be the last time I tried.
The tension in the room was palpable as the situation between Adam, Davis, and Connor continued to unfold. The air was thick with unspoken emotions, each person caught in their own turmoil. Will Adam and Davis's relationship survive the strain of Connor's constant interference? The question lingered in the space, as if no one could escape the reality that Connor's presence was becoming harder to ignore. Adam and Davis's connection was growing, but there was an underlying hesitation. Will Adam finally be able to overcome his fear and accept his love for Davis fully? The question weighed heavily on Adam's shoulders as he fought against the fear of what coming out could cost him, his family's approval, his future. Or will Connor continue to stir things up, threatening to destroy what they've built? Then there was Davis, caught between two conflicting emotions. What will happen when Davis finds himself torn between the two men, each pushing him in different directions? The struggle was clear, the desire to keep the peace while being drawn in opposite directions. What's the right choice when love, fear, and desire are all tangled up inside you? The questions hung in the air like an unresolved chord. The story wasn't over, not by a long shot. Would Adam find the courage to be honest with himself and those around him? Would Davis stand firm, or would Connor's constant presence drive them apart? The drama was far from finished, and the choices ahead seemed more complicated than ever.